Welcome, everybody, to the Knoxville BZA. I'm Amy Sherrill. I'm the chair of the BZA, and I'll be conducting today's meeting. Alongside me are the other members of the Zoning Appeals Board, and across the table here are city staff members. Today's meeting will be conducted in the order of the agenda, and agendas are available at the table near the front. Pursuant to BZA's administrative rules, each matter on the agenda will be considered in the following order: staff comments, proponents, opponents, rebuttals, discussion among board members, motion, second, discussion among board members, and a vote. Members of the public may address the board, and the following rules apply. Each person may speak once for 5 minutes and shall not have more than one time to speak, except that the chair may allow 2 minutes to the applicant for a rebuttal. When more than one person wants to speak to an issue, each side is limited to 3 speakers with 5 minutes each. The board may ask questions of any speaker and may allow more time or more speakers by a vote. Speakers should limit their remarks to the facts of the case and should avoid repeating comments that have been previously presented to the board. All speakers should come to the podium and speak directly into the microphone. Speakers will need to state their name and address for the record. Appeals of decisions made by BZA are made to Knoxville City Council. A petition for such an appeal shall be filed with the Plans Review and Building Inspections Department not more than 15 days from the date of the BZA's decision. Will you now call roll?
Amy Sherrill.
Here.
Brad Salisbury.
Here.
Daniel Odell.
Here.
Louise Urea.
Here.
Kimberly Black.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is the minutes from the July 21st meeting.
I'll move to approve.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Before we go into new business, I'd like to make a motion to move item BZA 260053 to the front of the agenda as they have an appointment next door at City Council.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so the first item on our agenda is BZA 260053. Are you here? Okay, as you're making your way up, we'll have staff comments.
Yes, the applicant is appealing the zoning administrator's determination that the property located at 2609 Keystone Avenue is being operated as a kennel, a use prohibited in the R2 zoning district. Pursuant to Article 2.3, a kennel is defined as any lot or premises on which 5 or more animals more than 6 months of age are kept. Under Article 9.2 use matrix, kennels are not permitted in the R2 zoning district. Based on this definition and the observed conditions, the zoning administrator determined that the operation constitutes a kennel and is therefore in violation of the City of Knoxville zoning ordinance.
Thank you. Okay, will you state your name? Push the little button with the speaker on it first. There you go. Now, if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Jamie Fuller, 2609 Keystone Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37917.
Thank you. And if you'll, state your case to us.
I understand that it is being considered as a kennel. However, we consider ourselves to be a rescue. We take in non-human primates. We do have several of them. As of right now, we have 30. We are USDA licensed by the state to have these primates. We do not consider it a business just because we don't allow people to come out to our property. It is strictly we are the only ones on the property along with the animals. So we're not taking any kind of money to let people come there or anything like that, which is what I would describe as the business itself. We are not boarding anybody else's and taking money. It is strictly ours.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone else here to speak on this item? Okay.
I can speak to that.
You're in favor or opposition?
In favor.
Okay, very good.
I'm in opposition to the zoning committee in favor of what they do.
Okay.
Yes.
Will you state your name and address to get us started?
Yeah, my name is Michael Robison. I'm actually out of Jackson County, Tennessee, but do the same work that the Fullers do as well. So it's not operated as a kennel. It is an independent operation because across the country, but specifically in this region, we have a large kind of an endemic issue of folks who've chosen these creatures, thinking they make great companion animals. They don't. So there are very, very few of us across the country, but specifically in this region, who have dedicated our space, our homes, and our place and our resources to taking care of these animals.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so with that, you can have a seat. Yes, we'll call you back, I'm sure, with questions. Okay, so the determination by the zoning administrator is that this operation meets the definition of a kennel, and they're appealing that decision. Yes, okay. We'll open up for board discussion.
And the definition of a kennel is any lot of premises on which 5 or more animals more than 6 months of age are kept for city purposes. That's the definition? Okay. If there is some kind of permit with the USDA, how does that conflict with the city's zoning ordinance?
So my understanding is that the USDA license is a Class C exhibitor license. Currently, Ms. Fuller has one. It goes through March 4th, 2027, and it oversees compliance with the Animal Welfare Act. So for the living conditions and containment conditions of the primates as they're used during exhibitions. That's my understanding.
So if she's allowed to have them under that, but under the city zoning code, she's not, or I guess my question is, if it is defined as a kennel based on very concrete numbers, 5 or more animals more than 6 months of age, she's appealing that determination, but what effect does that determination have on her ability to continue having those animals there? Does that make sense?
I'll do my best to answer,
Okay.
I think. I think the federal permit is the how.
Okay.
The zoning code is the where. So they function differently.
I see.
They're not in conflict with each other. They're supposed to go hand in hand.
Okay.
Where we don't regulate how primates are rescued. That's not our wheelhouse, but apparently there's a federal department that can dive into that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, to me, this is, it again goes to what type of activities are compatible with one another, and according to our zoning code, this is not compatible with the R2 zone. There are zones that kennel is an option, just not this one.
I understand the issue now, yeah.
Do we know when that definition was adopted?
That would have been in 2019 when City Council passed the recode, and that went into effect January 1st, 2020.
I mean, I think it's unfortunately pretty cut and dry. The definition is what it is for the zone. Now that I've understood. It's harder to get more black and white than that, I guess. Given that, I'm going to make a motion to deny the appeal for BZA
I'll second that motion.
-26-0053 because the zoning ordinance is just clear. Any lot or premises on which 5 or more animals more than 6 months of age are kept is defined as a kennel, and we don't exist to change the zoning ordinance.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so the appeal has failed. Did you hear me? Okay, thank
And
you.
you can appeal to city council.
Yep. Thank you very much. Okay, next on our agenda is BZA 260047. Is our applicant with us? Very good. As you're making your way forward, we'll have staff comments.
The applicant is requesting 2 variances related for a proposed addition of approximately 4,000 square feet to a place of worship in an R1 zoning district. The first request is to decrease the minimum required front setback in an R1 zoning district from plus or minus 10 feet of the average of block face, calculated as 70.6 feet, with a minimum of 60.6 feet to 41 feet. The second request is to increase the maximum allowed impervious surface coverage in a R1 zoning district from 40% to 41.1%. Staff calculated the average block face setback at 70.6 feet, while the subject property's existing setback is 107 feet, allowing for an approximately 45-foot addition while remaining compliant. The proposed expansion would increase impervious surface coverage from the permitted 40% to 41.1%, offset in part by 10,861 square feet of permeable paving. The project adds 380 assembly seats, requiring 95 parking spaces at a ratio of 0.2 spaces per seat in the newly proposed main assembly addition. The applicant proposes 61 new spaces, which combined with the existing 39 spaces will provide 100 total parking spaces, including 4 accessible spaces and 8 bicycle parking spaces.
Thank you. Will you state your name and address for the record? Oh, sorry, you got
Came up, took it
There-
up. Am I on now?
No, you're good.
Charles Pilgrim, 615 Langley Wood Lane, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919.
Thank you. And will you state your case and hardship?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Will you repeat to us your request and the hardship?
Oh, the hardship, they have very little buildable land left. They bought, the church bought this building about 4 years ago, and they have grown such that they need to expand, and they have just a small amount of buildable area left, if you can see on the map up here. A lot of the property is in the hillside protection zone. And this is, in order to, another option would be to remove existing paving that they have. Then they would have to add in additional paving to make up for that. And that's basically the hardship, is they don't have enough buildable land to be able to use their property.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor or opposition? Excellent. All right, we will open it up to board discussion. Is the rear, am I seeing the rear of this property is under hillside protection? Is that,
That's correct.
okay. Does that include the area that's between, there are 2 existing structures that are shown in our
Partially.
map?
Partially. Mhm. It does, actually it does include that area between the two structures, yes.
Did you look at, I mean, I would hope you considered, does the addition fit within, there's a gap between those and
We
it
did
was
look at that, and
determined-
there's just not enough room. There's 67 feet, I think, between the 2 buildings.
Okay.
I think this makes sense. The hillside protection is pushing their project towards the front of the property, and they're going to have paving or parking somewhere. So, you know, it's just a matter of where you put it at that point on the front of the property, I
That's
think.
correct.
So,
Also, the adjacent property has a garage that's about 30 feet or so off the right-of-way.
The average block face, there's just looking at this, so the 3811, is that part, it's hard for me to tell which, is that on Buffett Mill or is that on, was it part of the average calculation?
So 3811 is on Buffett Mill. However, I don't have all of the block face measurements in front of me, but I know I did throw out a couple of outliers that were really far back
Okay,
in order to decrease that setback.
okay, thank you. That was, yeah, it looks really far back, but, okay. Any other thoughts, questions, motions?
I'll make a motion to approve BZA 260047 on the basis of the hillside protection, which is basically pushing their design on the site up towards the front.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
Is that for both the setback variance and the impervious percentage, or just the setback and then? So I think
That would be for the setback, but the impervious to me is very minor in the overall, unless you can tell me why 1% matters to us there.
We've seen a lot of, in these residential zones where churches and schools and these higher use facilities fit in the allowable, but it's hard for those facilities to meet a 40% or 30% in some cases of a land coverage just based on that they're not a home.
Well, that's where I'm struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
We're adding a lot of pervious pavers in there, and it add another 1,000 square feet of pervious pavers in 6 parking spots
Would cure it.
would make that variance go away.
So you're getting rid of parking.
No,
No?
it'd still be parking. So this is all pervious.
Yeah.
You just
Oh,
could take it.
okay. Well,
Did you consider making that adjustment?
What exactly was being proposed?
we're basically you'd be adding more pervious pavers to your project.
Oh,
Your design has got a nice clean line for where those pervious pavers are running presently, but that line is giving you a 1% overage on your permeable. And
right. And the oddity to it is that they have an existing concrete paving, and it's on somewhere how many square feet it is, but they have a large existing concrete paving that's in good shape. So I had to work around that whole concrete paving that's impervious
Right.
and put in all permeable paving just to make it all fit, and it just barely fit. It got within 1%. That's basically what I got to.
Sure.
If we had to, we would take out those additional, we'd just take out the spaces and not have parking. I cannot put in any more. I can't convert any of what I'm showing to permeable paving because it's all permeable paving already.
So you've got a new concrete paving band between your pavers and your existing concrete.
That's true.
Looks like it's 10 feet wide.
Yeah, that could be taken out.
Well, if you
That-
make it
you're-
5 feet wide, all of a sudden you don't need the variance anymore.
Understand? And the reason I did it was because the way the parking lays out, they'd have the concrete paving stop the existing right in the middle of a parking row. I just extended it out to make it all.
No, it makes sense what you're
But I
doing.
would-
It just,
but, yes,
if
we-
you make that tweak,
we
I
would-
think that variance goes away. And it
Okay.
doesn't affect the functionality of your parking at all.
You're correct. It's an aesthetic thing. You're correct. And we'd prefer to have it that way, but we would agree to take that out to meet the ordinance if that's what was
Right.
needed to do.
But it is already installed, is what you're saying, that piece of concrete.
Well, there's a new strip that you mentioned. There's one new strip that makes a total aesthetically makes all the parking of that row in concrete, and then it begins the permeable paving.
Sure.
So it was an aesthetic thing.
Sure.
That's true.
Would you like me to withdraw my motion? and-
Hold on, can we amend a motion or do we need to?
So the motion that Daniel made was based on topography, basically, the presence of the hillside. It was seconded, but I think there was some discussion about clarifying it, whether it was just for variance number 1 or for both. So I think at this point you can clarify, and then we
Okay.
can have a re-second and move forward.
Okay, so then I would adjust the motion to approve item number 1, which is decreasing minimum required front setback from, well, as calculated per their application. And to deny item number 2 in their application.
And the basis for approving number 1 was the hillside protection.
Correct, the basis doesn't change.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, part
Thank you.
one is approved, part 2 is not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item BZA 260048 was withdrawn by the applicant, so we will be moving on to BZA 260049. Is the applicant with us?
Yes, I am.
Very good. Okay. Before you begin, we'll have staff comments.
The applicant is requesting one variance for a proposed addition to a place of worship in an R1 zoning district. The request is to increase the maximum allowed impervious surface coverage in an R1 zoning district from 50% to 69%. The applicant is providing 8 parking spaces. It should be from 40% to 60%, 69%, sorry about that. The applicant is providing 8 parking spaces above the minimum required based on the number of seats in the main assembly. The applicant should discuss why these spaces above the minimum required are necessary and how the request meets the standards for the minimum adjustment necessary in Article 16.3.
Thank you. If our applicant will state your name and address for the record, please.
Name is Dave Madden. Address is 3735 Parker Harrison Way, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37924.
Thank you. And if you could state your request and your hardship, please.
The hardship is that the church owns the property free and clear. They're expanding the church so that we can accommodate the parking needs for the growth. We have 25 parking spots on the street side on Washington Pike. We can increase our number of pervious parking paving materials to go ahead and accomplish what we need to, but the parking that we're looking for that is going to push us over is the lower 25 spots. And the minimum number is 75 and the maximum number is 150 based upon the tables. So we're planning on putting in 83 spots, which is 8 over the minimum.
Okay. Okay. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor or opposition of this item? Okay, very good. We will move on to board discussion. You said some portion of this is already pervious paving or could be changed to pervious paving. Can you clarify that?
We could take the lower 25 spots up against Washington Pike and make that pervious paving.
Okay, and that would reduce your request?
In a sense, yes. We could have credit for pervious paving. It would get us closer.
I just don't know how to do the math on that and like what the minimum request is.
That's a tough one. But the church is an existing facility there right now, and they're parking on the grass on Sundays. So they are filling up, and with this expansion, the body's going to grow.
Okay. Thank you. Hold on one moment. What is their existing coverage? Sorry.
I don't have that calculated right
That's
now.
okay. We're
But right
asking
now,
staff. Hold on one second.
Okay.
It wasn't provided in the packet that we received from the applicant.
Okay.
But if we look at the lot size is 58,621 square feet. Our building coverage is 6,238 square feet. It's a walkout basement building. It's a downsloping lot.
I think we're doing some internal calculations over here.
Okay.
So give us
Yeah,
just a second.
our charge is to look at what is the least variance needed, and
Right.
to understand hardships. And so what you're saying would decrease the request, and we're trying to understand, decrease it to what? So
It would take out about
Well,
12%.
we would keep the 83
Still be
parking
over.
spots. We would just take the lower 25 and put that as pervious pavement.
yes, we understand that part. We're trying to do math of,
Okay.
if you were to do that, approximately how much of an impact does that have in your request, is where we're trying to go with that.
Okay, we would probably most likely be getting closer to our number. We would probably be, let me look
What-
at the data.
So
We would probably be reducing it by about 20%. We would be 9% over.
Are you all amenable to a motion to postpone? Okay. I'm going to make a motion to postpone this item so that we don't continue to try and do this math on
Right.
our
I'll provide the
pencils over
math.
here. That way you have some time to reconsider and come back with your minimum request. So I make a motion to postpone item BZA 260049 until the September meeting.
I second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that'll give you some time to work with staff on revising your request. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, great. Thank you, guys. All right.
All right, item BZA 260050. Is our applicant with us? There they come. Okay. Can we have staff comments, please?
Yes, the applicant is requesting two variances related to a proposed addition to a single-family dwelling in an R2 zoning district. First request is to increase the maximum allowed building coverage in an R2 zoning district from 30% to 45%. The second request is to increase the maximum allowed impervious surface coverage in an R2 zoning district from 40% to 71.5%. The applicant is proposing a 441 square foot addition to the south side of the existing dwelling. The property is non-conforming in regards to building coverage as it exceeds the 30% maximum building coverage permitted in the R2 zoning district with an existing building coverage of 36%. The proposed addition would increase building coverage to 45%, introduce additional impervious surface area, resulting in a total impervious coverage of approximately 71.5%. The applicant should further explain how their hardship and site conditions satisfy the variance criteria established in Article 16.3.
Thank you. Will you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Sarah Martin, 1121 Eleanor Street. And yes, the hardship on this one is the pre-existing nonconformity, as the staff mentioned. Most of the neighborhood fits that definition because this is one of those dense downtown neighborhoods where both lot coverage and impervious surface are above the limits at practically every street address up and down the block. And so that's the hardship. The proposed design fits well within the development pattern of the historic neighborhood, which is more consistent of the dwellings adjacent. The other thing I'll mention, it's not an official hardship, but I just wanted to point it out because it's a unique site condition, is that the property to the left of the site plan that you see and behind, kind of plan south of the site plan that you see, those are all commercial properties. It's the WATE parking lot on one line and then commercial Broadway development on the other. So it is kind of an edge condition in that neighborhood, which we think will benefit from having a little buffer porch space between the residents and those commercial districts.
Thank you.
Thanks. And the resident is also here to speak, if that's all right.
Okay, very good.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for listening to me. Could you slide that slide? I saw the graphic. There's an aerial right there. So yeah, stop that right there so you get an idea of what we're talking about.
And before you,
Yeah, my name is Bob Wetzel. I live at 1231 Luttrell Street, the subject property. I'm here just to say we've discussed this with all of our neighbors. They were all in supportive of it. That includes the folks at WATE who have that massive surface parking lot. And then that big lot behind here where you see the line is the steam fitters unions, and they're fully supportive of it. In fact, we're using 50 feet of their lot right now for our development. And we also went to the neighborhood board asking their support, and we got this letter that says, please know that we support the request of Bob and Melinda Wetzel. These variances are needed by them in order to build their desired screen porch and room addition. Feel like these requests are reasonable and fall within the norms of past development patterns in our century-old neighborhood full of small lots and big houses. So we'd just like for y'all's consideration on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor or opposition? Okay, with that, we'll open for board discussion. Will you repeat the increase in, what's the current impervious?
They're showing on their site plan the existing impervious coverage at 62%.
Okay. So all of the increase is a result of the building, effectively?
Correct.
Okay.
The building and a proposed landscape path, which I'm assuming is probably pavers.
Okay. Thoughts, questions, motions?
I'm in favor of this. I think it's in keeping with the neighborhood. There's a lot of, all the lots over in this area are small, and we've allowed for additions like this on other properties in the past over there.
What would the hardship be?
I think historically, these small width, small size lots
We
in that
used to
downtown
call
area.
it small lot of record,
Yeah.
but that term changed.
We phrased it an existing nonconformity, but I've also said in the past that it's a nonconforming lot of record. That's how I've typically described the disagreement between the development pattern and the zoning.
Right.
I guess my concern is it's already overly allowable, right? It's non-conforming. We're just adding to the non-conformity based on the same.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you're making the condition worse technically if you want to think about it in
That is what I'm trying to.
in that light. But
Okay.
but it's a part of the existing fabric of the historic neighborhood, and that's been the way I've thought about it in the past.
Okay. Staff had something to add?
I just want to state for the record, this is a conforming lot of record. It's 50 feet wide and it's more than 5,000 square feet for a single family home. The condition of it being over the impervious and building coverage would make it a non-conforming condition, but it's still a conforming lot of record.
Thank you. I guess one of the questions to ask here is, was any consideration given to, there's looks like an outbuilding structure and there's a driveway. I don't know what material those are, but any alternatives to look at a way to swap and reduce the new impervious to some degree?
Trade some out for pervious. Do you want to speak to driveway material, Bob?
I don't know if you can see it on this diagram, but the driveways itself is just two concrete strips that run between, there's a house, green strip, concrete, green strip, concrete, green strip. So that's pretty much what you can do with that
Okay.
at this point in time.
Thank you. It wasn't clear here, so that helps a lot to understand what the condition is. Any further discussion or a motion?
I think given that it's a conforming lot of record and it's only the condition that is non-conforming, I'm going to make a motion to deny BZA -26-0050 on there not being a hardship, in my opinion.
Is it all right if I add any commentary at this
Not
point?
yet.
Is it too late? Okay.
Not yet.
Tell me when.
So I will second that so that we can open discussion. So we have a motion to deny and a second further discussion.
Yep.
Okay.
When did, was this always a conforming lot of record or did this change? Did the lot standard change during recode a while back?
I believe the previous residential districts were 7,500 was the minimum. And that number was lowered down to 5,000 during recode for areas like this that were historically smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
You go
Yes?
ahead.
Okay. Some of the recent zoning changes have affected a lot of the conformance of these lots. Typically, in the past 13 years when I've been working on a lot of these renovations, in this neighborhood specifically and then the adjacent ones, a lot of what we've considered when we've made zoning requests is the existing non-conforming conditions, which are usually directly in line with the requests, either the lot coverage, the impervious surface, often setbacks and accessory structures are out of those standards as well. And so that is one struggle we constantly have in this neighborhood is that you can find an existing non-conformant condition throughout all of these properties. And so what we've generally tried to do is honor the development pattern. And so we've done a lot of requests like this in the past with similar non-complying conditions. And that's typically been, we've typically had good luck getting them approved because it's not a motion to change or upset that existing neighborhood fabric. And we typically, this is a neighborhood that's covered by historic zoning. So that's often part of the consideration too. This property is not, but the neighborhood is. And so that's kind of the larger fabric that we're trying to uphold as well. And just to speak to some adjacent houses, you could see from that aerial photograph that there are some even right across the street that consume quite a bit more. That one directly across the house takes up almost the entire lot. And there are quite a few on that block and throughout the several hundred houses that constitute Fourth and Gill of similar density.
Yeah, I think this is one of those challenges of, honestly, I would love to see this rewritten. And then it would be, because having to come request because the zoning wasn't appropriate for the existing condition makes it hard for us to look at, from, our list of hardships, it's hard to create one. And then, as you said, making it more non-conforming is an even harder one.
I think one indication of that discrepancy between the zoning and the development pattern is the fact that the percentage jump from what's allowed to what exists currently is bigger than the jump we're asking for. That discrepancy is pretty large from the zoning.
Yeah.
I've actually got a question for engineering. So the impervious coverage is based on, a lot has to do with stormwater. If stormwater was captured, reused, infiltrated, that kind of stuff, would that affect that calculation at all for the addition?
So, is this coming through?
No, your red light's off.
Can I talk loud? Does that work?
Only if it picks up on Calvin's mic.
So as far as the impervious coverage in the zoning ordinance, I could be mistaken, but I believe a lot of the rationale behind that was more aesthetic than stormwater. And typically when impervious or pervious areas are added, they only count 50% instead of like a fully pervious surface. So it doesn't help as much as would seem. All that to say, even if they captured all the water and reused it, it wouldn't really affect that specific part of the zoning ordinance.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Maybe, I'm kind of trying to think through the fact that if they pulled any permit at all on this, they're gonna have to come into compliance to some extent, but what we're saying as a board is that the prior adjustment that was made during a recode, we're saying has no effect on our decision making, which I don't know that I completely agree with that, because used to, we would accept these. This was normal. And it is a historic neighborhood with lots that were created. We call them conforming now, but that's just, we just moved the goalpost. You just changed the standard of it, but you wouldn't, unless you're building townhomes today, these lots are not overly abundant for the size houses that were put on them to start with. So we're defaulting then saying that, only limit, like what limitation would we accept under, and if they pull a permit on anything, they're already out of compliance.
I'm gonna say yes, but.
Like,
I'm gonna say yes, but on that, at what point do we stop coming back to recode and saying, well, it would have been good 5 years ago, but it's not now? I get what you're saying, and I don't necessarily have an issue with what's being proposed. It's just, I'm trying to find a hardship, and I'm really struggling.
I'm not comfortable with the fact that you have people that made decisions, 30 years ago on their purchases, and now that we're limiting what they can do ultimately because of that change.
I do agree with that. I think it's fairly black and white, unfortunately, in terms of what we're allowed to do. But I do agree with the sentiment of what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know. Can I speak?
Mm-hmm.
The hardship is the lot was drawn 120 years ago. That's when it was laid out, long before any of this hit the Knoxville zoning ordinance. And so as the ordinance is written, as he just said, for the aesthetics of larger suburban neighborhoods, which is what these were designed for, they were not designed for the old, pre-19th century neighborhoods. So the hardship is, it's been, the requirements changed, but the lots were drawn 120 years ago. So.
Right. This was the large suburban neighborhood when it was built.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And that, over that 13 years I've referenced of like these type of applications, there's not been the right vocabulary to have the name of a hardship that describes that, but it's exactly what you're talking about. It's this disagreement between the development pattern and the zoning. And so how we've typically talked about it is that it has an existing non-conforming condition.
yeah, I think that goes back to, unfortunately making it more non-conforming, having to bring it into conformance would be a totally different conversation, right? Keeping it as is, but making it worse without, we've got a list of what we're allowed to consider a hardship. And as someone who lives nearby, and I would guess mine is close to being out of compliance like every other, right? But I don't know that I could come up with one for my own needs too. That's where I struggle, is that I would be in the same seat.
I think my answer is I think when things change, they have impacts for years and years and years to come. I don't have a problem looking back to recode because of the size of that impact on this neighborhood in particular, and there's a couple others as well, where this is part of the fabric of our downtown, and that change has a big impact.
If it would help the BZA in terms of establishing precedent or giving some sort of definition of the neighborhood fabric or density to look at. We'd be happy, well, I'd have to confer, of course, but if we wanted to consider providing additional documentation that calculates adjacent densities for that block or for that neighborhood that kind of proves that it is in line with the development pattern, I think we'd be willing to consider that.
Well, we don't have that ability here
Yeah.
to make that decision.
No, again, I think the unfortunate part is that I think that it should have been addressed in the zoning code to have appropriate conditions on these things. And we've heard some earlier for, allowable uses that fall under similar repeated circumstances. So, okay, well, we have a motion to deny in a second. Is there more discussion? No? Okay, so let's go ahead and have a vote on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay, so 3-1. And decisions here can be appealed to the Knoxville City Council. Thank you. Okay. Our next item here is BZA 260051, and I see our applicant is with us. Can we have staff comments, please?
Yes, the applicant is requesting one variance related to a proposed townhouse dwelling development in an R3 zoning district. The request is to decrease the minimum required lot width for townhouse dwelling unit in an R3 zoning district from 20 feet to 6.5 feet. The applicant proposes to develop the property as a single parcel and does not intend to subdivide the site for individual dwelling units. The proposal complies with the minimum lot area requirements, which require 12,000 square feet for the first 3 dwelling units and an additional 3,000 square feet for each dwelling unit thereafter. Based on the existing lot width of approximately 534 feet, the site does not meet the minimum lot width requirement of 20 feet per dwelling unit needed to achieve the density permitted by the lot area. The applicant has also demonstrated compliance with the maximum building coverage and impervious surface coverage standards. In addition, preliminary approval of the proposed site access has been obtained from the building and fire marshal departments.
Thank you.
Logan Higgins, 133 Southgate Street. Yeah, I think the staff comments covered a lot of the points that we have to make here. We're not asking for a more intense use than what this zoning allows. We're not going over the impervious area, the building coverage, the density. The lot width requirement on townhouses it appears to be meant when you have individual townhouses where all of them face the street. That is not always the case. In how townhouses are developed, you see that literally next door to the east. I think it's 7711 Mills Way. That neighborhood is developed in the same way that we want to, that we're doing this, where the townhouses are all part of the condo regime, a HOA, and they're not individually subdivided. The lot width does not is not meant to restrict density, and that's essentially what is happening in this case. We're doing something that is different than how it was intended to be used. And as a result, the lot width is too narrow to comply with what is written. And I think a good example of this was a case from earlier this year that you all heard, really right around the corner, right down the street from this one. It's BZA 250059. Very similar situation, townhouse development with narrow for the density, narrow lot frontage, and their intent was to do a similar thing. And I think you all saw in that the same hardship that we're requesting here. So I'll let the developer say a few words and be available for questions.
Joshua Henson, 106 Gore Road. I hope you all appreciate the hardship here, but I also want to show respect and to be a good developer, but more importantly, be a good neighbor to these people. And so I'd like to hear their opposition, and then if I could come back up and address that, if you don't mind. Thanks.
Absolutely. Okay, we have quite a few people here for this item. Have you all narrowed it down to 3? Yes. Awesome. Who would like to come first? And if you could just start with your name and address for the record.
And I'll keep a time over here. Madam Chair.
Perfect. You're off the hook.
Good afternoon. My name is Laura Freistack. I live at 1113 Webster Grove Lane, and I am the president of the Kirkwoods Homeowners Association. I represent, over 140 existing homeowners that will be the most impacted, in addition to Millington. At this time, I would like to ask all those opposed to please stand up and be recognized for their opposition to this property. Thank you. So I'd like to ask for your grace. I'm not a professional. I'm just the Homeowners Association. So please bear with me as I express the feelings of our residents and homeowners. So as you can imagine, our world was rocked 10 days ago when a sign went up that said BZA 260051 with a phone number. So we call that phone number. Now, in April of 2020, there was, I think, 28 or 34 homes planned for there. Well, to our surprise, there is now 82 townhomes to be built on that. That is a 298% increase from the previous plan. They had 6 years to work on that. We had 6 days. So I am not going to focus on all the letters that you guys got. I'm going to focus on Article 16.3 variance. And so for those in the audience, I'm going to explain what that is. So the City of Knoxville zoning ordinance, Article 16.3 variance, describes standards. The Board of Zoning Appeals may authorize a variance from the strict application of the code as it is to relieve any difficulties or hardships only in accordance with all the following. So all the following needs to be met. So number 1 is special circumstances or conditions, and that is exceptional narrowness, topography, any challenges that may apply to this property versus other properties in the area. The elevation doesn't change. It doesn't affect the ability to construct the units to be built. So in our opinion, this criteria is not met. Number 2 does not apply. Number 3, circumstances or conditions are such that the strict application of the provisions of this code will deprive the applicant of any reasonable use of his or her land. Mere loss in value does not justify a variance. There must be a deprivation of the beneficial use of the land. So the important part of this is any before the word reasonable. This applicant has not shown that the ordinance will deprive him of any reasonable use of the land. They created the hardship themselves by increasing the density by 298%. What's the hardship? We just don't get it. We don't feel that that's been met. Number 4, any variance granted under the provision of this section must meet minimum adjustments necessary for the reasonable use of the land. There is no described need for any variance for the reasonable use of the land. It's profit. It's profit over us homeowners who have lived there for many, many years. A 298% increase is not a minimum. Number 5, the granting of any variance is in harmony with the general use and the intent of this code will cause injury or be detrimental to the public or welfare. I beg you, if you have never tried to cross Middlebrook in the morning or in the evening 45 miles an hour. We have a bunch of seniors. We take our lives when we go out to the middle. If you allow this to go through, this standard has not been met because it's putting our lives in jeopardy. Therefore, it is our belief that this applicant has not met the burden of proof. So we ask you to reject.
Thank you. We have other speakers.
Hi, I'm Greg Davis. I live at 913 Millington Parkway. My property directly borders 7805 Middlebrook Pike, and I'm here to strongly oppose BZA 260051. The request being considered would remove Plan District C designation that has governed this parcel for years. That designation was created specifically to protect adjacent residential properties like mine. It contains conditions related to buffering, setbacks, access, and intensity, all of which are essential for compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. Plan District C is not advisory, it's binding law. The board's required to apply its protections unless the criteria for removal are fully met. The Knoxville zoning ordinance is clear about the purpose of plan districts. Section 14.2 states that plan districts are intended, quote, to ensure compatibility with surrounding properties and to apply conditions necessary to mitigate impacts. Removing Plan District C would eliminate those protections entirely. Under Section 16.1E, any zoning amendment, including an administrative removal, must meet each of three criteria. The first criterion is evidence of changed conditions. There are no change conditions here. The neighborhood is the same. My home is still directly adjacent. The conditions in Plan District C are still necessary. Nothing has occurred that justifies eliminating them. The second criterion requires consistency with the intent of the zoning code. Removing Plan District C would do the opposite. It would allow development that is much more intense and less compatible than what the plan district was designed to regulate. And the third criteria requires consistency with adopted plans. No adopted plan calls for removing the protections provided by Plan District C from this parcel. Meeting all three of these criteria is a necessary condition for removing the previously approved Plan District C designation. This request fails each one of them. In addition, KGIS shows that approximately a third of this parcel lies within the hillside protection overlay. Hillside protection imposes strict limits on disturbance and density. These limits apply regardless of any zoning changes. An 82-unit residential project on 5.83 acres cannot meet these hillside disturbance and density limits. The hillside protection overlay is likewise binding law. Section 9.3 governs administrative removals. It states that such removals must not increase intensity beyond that was what originally contemplated. Yet the applicant has already discussed an 82-unit residential project. 82 units is a dramatic increase in intensity, exactly the kind of impact Plan District C conditions were created to prevent, and exactly the kind of impact the hillside protection overlay is designed to mitigate. If Plan District C is removed, my property loses buffering, loses setbacks, loses every protection that currently exists. The impact on my home and all the homes in this neighborhood would be immediate and severe. In summary, this request does not meet the criteria in Section 16.1E. It contradicts the intent of Section 14.2. It violates the intensity limits of section 9.3, and it's incompatible with the hillside protection overlay. For these reasons, I strongly urge the board to deny request BZA 260051 and to retain the Plan District C designation. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to offer a point of clarification?
Sure. So this board doesn't deal with the planned district designation that I believe was heard at Planning Commission last week. And so they're just hearing about variances, not necessarily planned development.
Yeah, and likewise with the hillside, unfortunately, that's not a variance item, but that would be handled by the review. So
But the request is to remove the planned district.
Not here.
That's not here.
We don't handle that request. So that may still be a part of it, but it would be heard by a different body. We're only able to deal with the dimensional pieces, but I wanted to make sure you understand we heard you, but we won't respond to the ones that we don't have any say in.
So all the intensity arguments remain in effect, though.
So everything else, we hear your argument loud and clear. I just want to make sure when you hear us discuss, we're going to not discuss things that we don't have any purview over. So didn't want you to think we're ignoring you. So thank you. Is there a third speaker? Okay, very good.
Good afternoon. My name is Lee Hume. I live at 6902 Haverhill Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm the president of the West Hills Community Association. And I'm here today to express the concern that our neighborhood has with the traffic that will be generated by an 82-unit project on the opposite side of Broome Road. And essentially, it will create a four-way intersection at Broome Road. Middlebrook Pike traffic, just like it is everywhere in the city, has been increasing exponentially. For years, we've had problems with traffic on Broome Road as a cut-through, even with installing 9 speed humps along Broome Road between Middlebrook and Gallagher View. People still abuse it. And we have a new development that's being built at the moment as we speak, a new townhouse development right at the corner of Broome and Broome and Middlebrook. And it's a 28-unit townhouse complex. And we've been concerned about its location and proximity to that intersection since we saw the original drawings and the plans to use Broome Road as an access point to that site. We think that this project has proposed as an 82-unit project is going to compound that even more and create an even more dangerous situation. In addition to that townhouse, we also have a senior living facility at the top of the hill behind that complex. So we have older citizens and an older population that generally lives in West Hills that tries to access that point. And so traffic is a major concern. And to bring that back to the points that we've been making earlier, as far as section item 5 under the section standards, we think that it would be injurious to the neighborhood and detrimental to public welfare. And based on that, we respectfully ask that you deny this change in zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Would the applicant like 2 minutes for rebuttal? Sure. Okay.
Thank you all for your concerns and responses. I really do understand where they're coming from. I understand density, I understand traffic, I understand the hilltop protection, but this is a hardship situation. We have gone and met with the city with regards to traffic. We will follow all traffic requirements. We will follow all hilltop protection requirements, and we're within all density requirements. We need more housing in Knoxville. Both neighborhoods on each east and west, if you were to take the same scenario, if they were to go rebuild those neighborhoods, they'd be at 3 feet per unit and 13 feet per unit on the east and west side. We need housing. And this is not a for-profit thing. Of course, this is a business that we rely on, But there is a need for this business and there's a need for housing in this area. I understand there's seniors. I understand there's all demographics on this road. But that does not go past the fact that we desperately need housing, and this is a perfect infill lot for housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. With that, I'm going to open for board discussion. I will say this is one that, I think this has a poor correlation between intent and the spirit of this measuring widths by width of property when that takes into account no depth. And that makes that, I don't think that was the spirit of what was intended there. Having that many driveways onto Middlebrook Pike would be a nightmare. So you would want it to be developed as a community. Likewise, hear all the concerns, trying to narrow it down to what's in our purview. Which really just comes down to the width and how it translates to the number of units allowed.
Yeah, that's where I'm struggling as well. We've got a minimum that are there, and then if you look at the other way, and so we're looking at the two extremes on either end with no opportunity for something in the middle that is a little bit more reasonable.
I completely agree. And I'm struggling to see a specific hardship here.
As am I.
Apart from Knoxville needs housing, which I agree with, but topography, yeah, it's not on the list. Topography, siting.
If I could just ask the case that I referenced from earlier this year, 250059, I think it was. I don't know if you all recall what the hardship was on that case, but I believe what was written was same. Was very similar to what we have. I'm just not sure if you all found a different hardship during the meeting.
I personally don't recall all of the specific circumstances. I remember there being a similar case. I also know we don't. There's no precedent set.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. More discussion? Daniel, you've got.
What's that?
You look like you were ready to say something.
Well, I got questions, I think. I'm not. Logan, real quick, have y'all gone? How far? I mean, I see a site plan, but how far have you gone down the road of actually looking at your stormwater and what the city and county are going to require of you for stormwater collection and
Pretty in depth. I mean, we've got a significant amount dedicated to detention. We haven't designed it exactly yet. Of course, we wanted to come here first before getting too deep in that. But we've certainly looked at all of everything down to the fire access and of the site. So
okay, I'm working on another site right now that is completely unrelated but somewhat similar. And I'm, from what I'm seeing on that site to here, I'm a little surprised of this density period, just with stormwater and what I'm seeing elsewhere. So that's why I'm asking.
This is RN3, which is the lowest density for townhouses in the city, and we're under that with our count.
But you haven't actually submitted a design or gone to TDOT with driveway requirements and all of those things?
No.
Okay.
If I may, if TDOT and the city staff requires that of us, we will comply. And if we need to, if we need to cut out units, we'll have, we're forced to, we will. The hardship in this case is that if we take the 20 feet per unit, we'll have 26 dwelling units, plus or minus 3. I believe it's 26 dwelling units on a over 5 acre site. That's an underuse.
I understand that part of it. And I think where I'm at is you're asking for the absolute maximum that you can put on there without having gone into the design of really what can fit there.
Certainly.
So you're asking us to give you a variance for up here, but you don't even know if it'll work.
And it's not our job to arbitrage that, and that's where we're
I totally understand that.
in the middle there.
I guess, and we should ask, and then if they require, then we will obviously step back.
Well, but that's not
That's not the
that's
point.
forcing us to arbitrage. That's what we're saying. We
Oh, I
this
see.
board can't do.
Sorry, okay.
Yeah, and that's where we're a little bit stuck there, is that we feel like it's.
Sounds like you're
I feel
saying
like
it's
it's too early,
premature.
is what I-
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not even stuck anymore.
Yeah. I think I think we're all struggling with is there are all these things, right? There's the hillside, there's all these parts and pieces that quite likely could affect the final layout. And so if we're being tasked with what's the minimum variance and we know that there's potential for that to be decreasing, then it's not actually the minimum requirement. So it'd be easier if you all had a little bit more development in those plans and some of that feedback to be able to say we've already met them.
If we were
Not
to
the
be-
intent to meet them, but that we already have met them, and then we can truly see what's the minimum
I
adjustment.
understand.
I will say it is a complicated one, and I think, I've seen lots where they're long and skinny,
Right.
right? That this
I'm
is being a
thinking
square
about-
makes it,
Right, I'm thinking
different,
about
but-
a deal in, one in, Fort Sanders where there can be some intent behind this conflict in the code, from what I'm recalling on prior variance requests, where it's a bad thing for you that exists the way it does from a practical standpoint, but just because the zoning says one thing doesn't, in my mind, necessarily override the other piece. In other words, just because you could be able to, doesn't mean you should be able to, versus the restriction on the other end of the seesaw, if that makes sense. So,
If I could ask, how far would you, in the past, have you asked to see? And, because this is
right,
a lot of
'cause-
energy and time and, I hear both sides of this truly, and I want to do the right thing, and I want to be right by these people, and I want to be right by you all. But, there is a lot of, there's a lot of unknowns on the other side of this.
Yes, there is.
I think with me, there's still so many questions before we can take it up to the maximum variance
Certainly.
that you could ever possibly get that have got to be answered. It also is going to give you a chance to work a little bit with the neighbors as far as, right, what can we do that maybe will help be
Is
good
their
neighbors.
concern, certainly.
yeah.
I read every one of their comments, and
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did. And I think it's just that next step in that due diligence process.
certainly.
So would you all be okay with a postponement to allow us to regroup and dig into those a little bit longer?
That's what I'm hearing the recommendation would be, although even if it were rejected, you can come back with a new request.
Sure.
So how long can we do we have the option of a 30 or 60 day or?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, you can discuss with the applicant how much time they think they might need, so.
Is 30 enough, or do you
I
need?
hope so. If we get to it, I'll pull out before then,
Okay.
if that's possible.
Okay. Make a motion that we postpone item BZA 26051 for 30 days.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion among the board? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this item's been postponed. BZA item 260052 was postponed by the applicant, so that is not being heard today. And that concludes the cases. And so other business, the next BZA meeting will be held on September 15th at 4 p.m. here in the small assembly room. And thank you all for your time tonight. We adjourn the meeting.